자, 즐거운 역사여행 디스커버리 투어 시간입니다. 그냥 맛보기만 하고 끝내려고 그랬는데 생각보다 너무 잘 만들어서 계속하게 됐습니다. 지난번에 알렉산드리아 편 했었죠, 그죠? 재밌었는데 이번에는 피라미드 편 한번 해보죠. 기자임?
Welcome to the origin of the pyramid. The origin of the word pyramid is controversial. Most believe that it originates with the Greek word pyramis, which referred to a bread of conical shape. Life and death in ancient Egypt were modeled on the cycle of the sun. The perfect shape of the smooth-faced pyramid became associated with the metaphor of the pharaoh transformed into one of the sun's rays in death. Pyramids represented the Benben, the primordial mound of the Heliopolitan creation myth. These stories permeated every aspect of Egyptian life to a greater or lesser extent.
안녕하세요. 벤벤. 최근에 했어요?
During the pre-dynastic period, the development of funerary practices was different, depending on whether one was located in Lower Egypt or Upper Egypt.
안녕하세요.
Well before the pyramid, there was the burial pits. It is on the site of Merimde Beni Salome in Lower Egypt that we find the oldest funerary site, dating back to 5000 BCE. Study of the tombs revealed that the bodies of the deceased were deposited in a shallow grave, in a fetal position. Though
최근에
a few
못했다고
objects
해야지.
were recovered from these graves,
아니,
they
집에는
offered
가셔야죠.
no insight
차
as to
없잖아요.
the social class of those interred within.
아, 본인이 사장이에요, 본인이. 집에 그럼 뭐 타고 하려고요?
In Upper Egypt, pre-dynastic practices are easier to study, but reveal more complex funerary rites.
이거 시체 사진인데
They are
여기다
divided
성형을
into
느끼는
two
병신들은
cultural
없겠죠?
phases, Badarian
여성부
and
7급
Nagara.
공무원들은 느낄려나?
The Badarian phase ranged from 4400 BCE to 3800 BCE. Small necropolises were discovered on the outskirts of villages, revealing the emergence of a funerary cult. The bodies of the
여성부
deceased were
사람들은
lowered
그럴 수도
into an
있어.
oval grave and
여성부잖아.
covered with goat or gazelle skins.
여성이니까
Items needed in everyday
자기들
life were added
주장대로라면은
alongside the
가틀
body.
여자의 성자니까 아마 시체도 하나의 성으로 인정해 줄 수도 있어. 그럼 그냥 회사에서 밤새야 되는 거예요?
During the three Nagata periods ranging from 4000 BCE to 3510 BCE, funerary practices evolved in complexity. The shape of tombs changed from oval to
나물요.
rectangular, mimicking the homes of the living. The size of the burials increased and funerary items became more stylized and numerous. Tombs gained complexity, with masonry, wooden veneers, or raw bricks added to strengthen the structures.
알겠습니다.
In time, socially stratified necropolises
그 직원이
emerged.
혹시 나가서 그런
For
거예요?
example, in Hyrcanopolis, the elite and commoners had separate necropolises. The term mastaba, meaning massive bench
빨리
in
하세요. 빨리
dialectal
하고
Arabic,
자고
refers to
또
a
내일
form of
사셔야죠.
funerary architecture that was
그런 건
present in
아니고.
Egypt from the Archaic period to the Middle Kingdom. An evolution of the burial pit, mastabas were generally composed of two parts. A structure was built above the ground in the form of a massive rectangle with stepped walls,
고생하십시오.
and a subterranean burial chamber was located underneath. Smaller
제가
mastabas
언제까지 이걸
often
할지는
surrounded the much
모르겠는데
larger tomb of the king. These generally held the remains of the king's relatives and courtiers.
어쨌건 제가 다 할 때까지 끝을 보셨으면 좋겠네요.
The arrangement of the substructure of the mastaba evolved
우왕조.
during the course of the Old
우왕 좀
Kingdom.
엄청
From
예전이구나.
the 5th dynasty onwards, mastabas often featured multi-roomed substructures, with sometimes up to 30 rooms. Also, the quantity and quality of decorated surfaces
사라지는 건 괜찮은데
increased
죽지만 마세요.
noticeably, as well as the number of
죽으면 언젠가
statues
보겠죠.
found within.
우왕조면 초기 아닙니까? 통일되고 얼마 안 지나서.
The 6th dynasty would see art used to its utmost. The entire surface of a mastaba would be covered in scenes of daily life, illustrating the prosperity of those lucky enough to comfortably spend eternity
기록이
near the
없어요?
pyramid of a pharaoh.
피라미드는 남아 있나
The
보다
best
그래도.
example of this type of mastaba is the tomb of Meroruka in Saqqara.
히타이트가 11에서 15왕조 시기. 아유. 10% 얼마 많은지. 자, 이번 조세르의 계단 피라미드 엄청 많네. 인류가 건축한 최초라는데. 이거 재밌지 않아요? 인류가 건축한 최초의 석조 건축물이다. 캐릭터를 내가 선택할 수 있구나. 뭘로 하지? 배우 이집트 여성. 15, 16왕조 때가 람세스예요. 우리가 아는 그 람세스. 자, 카이사르를 한번 해보죠. 머리숱 많은 가짜
Welcome
카이사르.
to the Step Pyramid Complex of Djoser. The Step Pyramid is at the center of an enclosed complex comprised of temples, models of palaces, and
저번에
artificial
가출
constructions,
소녀님이 요걸
all
보고
built
초기형
for the
피라미드라
afterlife
그랬었는데
of Pharaoh Djoser.
그 이야기인 것 같습니다.
The funeral complex itself covers 15 hectares and is located on the highest point of the Saqqara Plateau. It's clear from the elaborate detail and scale of the complex that this was a technological marvel of its time. The only fragment of information regarding the design plans of the complex was discovered on a section of stone containing an architectural sketch of a vault. The Step Pyramid is the first monument built of stone. Standing at 60 meters high, it was the tallest of its time. Built 4,700 years ago, it was
4,700년
originally
전
intended as a mastaba,
건설됐답니다. 그러니까 이
which
게임
was a
시점부터
flat-roofed rectangular tomb.
게임
Its
시점으로부터도
famous
2,700년
architect,
전이네요.
Imhotep, may have felt this was too humble for the great pharaoh Djoser
지금부터 게임
and began to
시점까지의
add the
길이보다
steps.
게임 시점에서 저 때까지 길이가 더 기네요. 무서운 새끼들.
The Step Pyramid complex is enclosed within a 1,600-meter long wall that is 10 meters high. This large wall was made out of white limestone and oriented along the north-south axis.
요게 그러니까 다 담장의 흔적이란 말이지.
While there are 14 doors, only its eastern door was intended to accommodate the living. The remaining false doors were built as portals for the king's ka to pass through. Along with false doorways, the walls were designed with bastions and steeples resembling a defensive wall.
지금 요게 가짜
The
문인가 보다.
positioning of these design elements suggest that they were related to the Hebsed festival. The only real entrance into the complex is at the end of a long, narrow passageway. This enclosure has a stone canopy carved
대단한
to
거지.
resemble wooden logs. At the end of the passage is a large opening.
목표를
Meant to
제
resemble a
방송
doorway,
끝나기 전에
it has
끝내는 걸로
carved
잡으십시오.
doors and hinges that are permanently open and immovable. The corridor is lined with 20 pairs of columns
네, 저
up to
10분 뒤에
6
끝낼
meters
거예요.
high, built by stacking stone drums. The completed facade was made to resemble reed stock bundles. Traces of red paint were found on
네,
the
요
columns,
캐릭터를 우리가
along
바꿔서 쓸
with
수
black
있더라고요.
paint on the support walls. This would have had the effect of blending the walls into the shadows to give the red columns the illusion of standing on their own.
아무튼 한동안 할 거니까 빨리 끝내시죠. 방송 끝내기 전에. 그래야 좀 자괴감도 덜 들 거 아닙니까?
Chambers are located on either side of the columns and are thought to be
이게 요런 걸
chapels
만들었다고?
representing the provinces of Upper and Lower Egypt. According to some Egyptologists, the arrangement of the rooms may be symbolic of jurisdiction and judgment.
요게 오왕조 때 만든 물품이라는 거잖아. 네, 안녕하세요.
Guarded by a line of carved snakes, this tomb is located at the southern end of the courtyard. The burial chamber is beneath it, down a 30-meter deep shaft. The low-ceilinged chamber resembles a
오황제?
mastaba
어,
and is
오왕조,
relatively
오왕조.
intact compared to the later burial chamber.
이집트 제 5왕조.
The tomb is made of pink granite, though there is evidence it was once polished limestone. Too small for a body, it is possible that the tomb was intended for the king's ka, or to hold the canopic jars containing the king's organs. Later traditions in burials would have the canopic jars in the same chamber as the body. A polished limestone staircase leads west from the tomb to underground apartments. Some of these rooms were intended to accommodate the king and his family in the afterlife. Many large jars of pottery were found,
디스커버리
including
투어.
some that still had deposits of beer, milk, and
네,
oil
잘
inside
만들었는데.
them. The false doorways are decorated with reliefs of the king taking part in rituals. In these reliefs, he is seen carrying agricultural tools, running, and performing a ritual for the reanimation of the deceased. The architect Imhotep chose stone as a
Imhotep.
building material in order for the complex to last. Following the completion of the initial mastaba, Imhotep devised a burial of more ambitious dimensions. He set about
건축가 이름이
stacking
이모템이라는 거
mastabas
어떻게
on
알지?
top of each
어떻게
other.
하는 거죠?
Evidence shows that the pyramid was enlarged twice by additional cuts into the steps, eventually reaching 62 meters in height and 121 meters by 109 meters at its base.
높이가 62m면은 60m. 10m만 해도 까마득한데.
A staircase allowing the pharaoh to enter the divine world was represented by a tiered pyramid, oblong in shape, completely enveloping the original mastaba. The pyramid itself is a solid structure. All of the chambers and tunnels are beneath the structure.
옴씨 아니야, 방금 켠 거야. 뭐지? 내가 뭐 지나쳤나? 왜 이러지? 아, 우리 다 가짜라고 지금 얘기하고 있어. 여기 있었구나.
Pharaoh Djoser the Sacred was
사망조의
the founder
시조랍니다.
of the Third Dynasty. He
사망조.
ruled for 19 years.
During his reign, he was known as Horus Negereket, divine of the body. He was given the name Djoser several centuries after his death, as a sign of respect, and he is regarded as one of the greatest pharaohs of Egypt. An apocrypha was drafted in his name during the Ptolemaic period, 2,500 years after his death.
프톨레마이오스 왕조가 조세르 이후에 2500년이 지나고 나서 일어납니다. 시부레.
Djoser was associated with the sky god Horus in his human form. A plinth near the step pyramid is inscribed with his name and associated with Horus.
지금이 기원 후
He was the first to
2019년이죠.
reside in Memphis, making it the central hub of government for the region. Djoser was known to have built many temples and monuments before the complex at Saqqara. The funerary complex was the first of its kind, and would mark Djoser's greatest architectural achievement. The funerary complex was built to resemble Djoser's palace, with the stone carved to imitate mud brick, trees, and reeds. Creating these details and softer textures in hard stone would have been a time-consuming, labor-intensive task. Much of the complex is designed to accommodate the Hebsed festival, allowing the king the ability to affirm his rule even in the afterlife.
그때도 관광지, 지금도 관광지. 경주에는 왜 피라미드 없을까? 뭐지?
In the corner is a temple referred to as T. This temple is among the most mysterious structures in the complex. Its outer facade is plain, while inside it is decorated with intricate jed pillars and carvings. It's possible that this place was intended to be where the Ka of the king materialized, symbolically visiting the platform of the Hebsed courtyard from the afterlife.
Yep. Whoa, whoa. Hop, hop, hey.
The Hebsed festival enabled the pharaoh to maintain universal order
요거는
and
사왕조
renew
기록이랍니다.
godly
사왕조.
powers. Through a series of trials and religious rites, such as
파라오
dance,
즉위 30주년
offerings,
기념제랍니다.
and visiting the sanctuaries of various deities, the ruler's vital force and divine nature was confirmed. The celebration was meant to represent the ruler's jubilee and would take place every 30 years, though the deadline was not
경주에도
always
피라미드
followed.
있었으면 아마 동철 씨가 좋아했을 텐데.
The earliest known ritual dates from the First Dynasty. Within the complex of Djoser, southeast of the pyramid, is a dedicated space for this essential ritual to be performed by the king even in the afterlife. The Hebsed
파라오
courtyard
한
is
명마다
lined with
다
false
피라미드가
chapels
있는 건가요?
and equipped
아니면은
with a platform featuring two
그냥
staircases
대표적인 사람
meant
몇
to
명만 있는
represent
건가요?
Upper and Lower Egypt.
혹시 아는 분 계신가요?
Located in the courtyard, the two pavilions are believed to represent the palaces of Upper and Lower Egypt.
못 만든 놈이 많다고?
Rectangular in shape, the two replica structures
파괴된
face
것도
one
있고.
another.
파괴는 왜 안 돼?
Their facade is similar to the chapels of the Hebsed ceremony,
그러면 지금까지
with
남아 있는
column crowns carved to
거는
look like falling leaves.
그때 기준으로도 대단한
Because
왕들이라고
Queen
생각하면 되겠네요, 그죠?
Hetepernepti and
어떤
Princess
의미에서는 대단한
Inetkasa's
왕들이
names
저걸
were
세웠다.
discovered on a stela
라고
near
생각할
the
수 있겠네.
pavilions. It is thought that these funerary chapels were intended for them.
한 놈이 5개요.
Yeah.
한 놈이 5개 만드는 거는 아마
The funerary temple
여성부가
is on the
싫어하겠다.
north side of the complex, facing the stars where the deceased ruler was believed to travel after death. Within this temple, was the pharaoh's serdab, or cellar. It is a small, enclosed space with one wall sloped to match the first step of the pyramid.
투탕카멘이 별로 유명한 사람이 아니었어요? 유명한 사람 아님?
The north wall has
아하.
two observation holes. A statue of
사실
Djoser
방금
is seated
놀랬다.
on the throne, wearing a mantle and a tripartite wig with a crown known as a Nemes. Representing the king's
저게
car,
4700년
this
전
statue
유행이구나.
looks through the observation holes into the courtyard, enabling the king to
수염
observe
저것도
the
아마
ceremonies
붙인 거겠지,
and
수염
receive
모양으로.
offerings in the afterlife.
설마 저런 식으로 수염을 기르진 않았을 거 아니야. 자, 조세르의 계단 피라미드, 요게 5왕조쯤 된다고 하죠. 제뱅 계단 피라미드 내부도 한번 들어볼 수 있답니다. 아, 그래요.
Welcome to Inside Djoser's Step Pyramid.
그럼 여기 나온 조세르의 계단 피라미드라는 게 최초의
The
피라미드인가요?
architect of the Step Pyramid, Imhotep, was a man of great importance to
미나 씨, 네
Pharaoh
욕구를
Djoser
그렇게
and
표현하면 안
ancient
돼.
Egyptians in general. The base of a statue of Djoser,
아,
discovered
왕권이 많이
in
약화된 거야?
1926, celebrates Imhotep as a carpenter, sculptor, stonemaker, and chief of the seers. Little is known of Imhotep's day-to-day life. While he is credited for writing medical texts, it is for his role of architect that he is most famously known.
최초.
From the design of the pyramid to the elements within the complex itself, Imhotep set out to create something that would immortalize his king. An architectural achievement, the step pyramid was made from stone blocks instead of mud brick. It was the first time
저때
Egyptians built a
기준으로도 저건
monument of
그러면
that
개쩌는
height.
개쩌는 건물이었겠네요.
Imhotep explicitly intended for the stone to reflect natural materials. The funerary
누군가가
complex
개쩌는
of
걸
Djoser remained
만들어놨으니까
famous throughout the
나중에
centuries
왕들이
and
이걸
millennia,
따라했겠네.
and its great architect, Imhotep, was deified by ancient Egyptians during
저렇게
the
근데
late period.
붕분을 되게 높이 쌓은 형태의 무덤 있잖아요. 피라미드 형태의 무덤은 이집트에서만 있는 건 아니잖아요. 예를 들면 아메리카에도 있고, 그다음에 막 옛날에 그 뭐야 환단고기 새끼들이 막 중원 피라미드 막 그러면서 그런 것도 있었고.
In addition to the central
그건 그냥
subterranean
세계적인
palace
경향인가?
built for Djoser, 11 wells were dug.
그냥 높이
Each
쌓고
went to
싶고
a
그런
depth
건가?
of 33 meters
내게 제일
and
커요, 막
connected
그런
with a
거.
horizontal gallery extending for about 20 meters. The first 5 galleries were intended for members of the royal family.
그러니까 그게 전 세계적인 그냥 유행이었나요? 다들 그냥 크게 만들고 싶었던 걸까?
Two passages lead underground and branch off in 3 directions to various magazine galleries. This vast underground space accommodated sections for storage and ceremonial offerings.
큰 게 권이 나서.
One of the tunnels, starting on the east side of the
산으로.
pyramid, contained 40,000 stone vessels, many of them belonging to the king's ancestors.
중국 천자의 권위는 양놈들의 그런 거하고는 비교할 수 없을 만큼 크니까.
The burial chamber of Djoser is located at the bottom of a 28-meter
남자의
deep
로망이요.
central
큰 게
shaft.
좋다.
According to Egyptologist
내가 굳이 그
Jean-Philippe
말을 하지
Lauer,
않으려고
the
했었었는데
chamber
그 말을
was
해서 되게
originally
고맙네.
made from polished blocks of limestone,
나 대신
while
얘기해줘서
its ceiling was
고마워요.
decorated in 5-pointed stars. At some point, however, the limestone blocks were replaced entirely by pink granite blocks, leaving behind only fragments of limestone blocks decorated with stars.
그랬답니다.
At the foot of the chamber are many tunnels going in all directions. This maze of tunnels, galleries, and chambers stretches over 5 kilometers. There are a number of dead ends and false doors.
가짜 문들.
They may have been intended for the afterlife,
그때도
rather
돌고는
than to fool
예상했었구나.
thieves.
누군가는 이걸 파겠지라고 생각했을 거야. 하다가 뒤져라 뭐 그런 말 아니었을까?
Unlike the Great Pyramid of Giza or
대그루저가
Menkaure,
좋죠.
the Pyramid of Djoser does not have any extra openings dug out by thieves. There was no need for them. Because of the easy access into the tunnels and along the corridors, thieves had little trouble clearing out the temples once inside.
들어가면 어렵지 않게.
It is unknown when the mummy of Djoser was stolen. All that remained was a left foot, found by French Egyptologist Jean-Philippe Lauer in 1934. This architect, who devoted his whole life to meticulously exploring the complex, believed it belonged to Djoser. The pharaoh's apartments, also known as the blue chambers, are decorated with blue-green tiles meant to imitate the reed matting that covered the walls and windows of his
그냥 비행기요.
palace.
작은 비행기하고 큰
The
비행기.
stone is carefully curved and painted to look like the rolled mats of open doorways and curtains.
크면 좋다. 여성분은 배틀크루저 아마 싫을 거예요. 그냥 난 2500년 전 4700년 전이구나. 4700년 전에도 지금 여성부 관료 같은 새끼들이 있지 않았을까?
There are two
생각해본
long
거야.
rooms running side by
인간
side
쓰레기들은
along
어디
a
있잖아.
north-south axis. The south room has false doors separated by stone panels, while the north room is a corridor which allows access to side chambers. Nearby chambers originally housed the pharaoh's treasures. The door frames are made of fine limestone and carved with the king's name. As in the south tomb, reliefs are carved into the doorways. These reliefs show the king performing rituals and visiting divine sanctuaries
요즘은
for all
대통령이 해고 안
eternity.
하잖아요.
Their interiors are fictive
4700
additions
년에도
made
그랬을
by
수
the
있죠.
team to add to the wonders of the tomb. It is clear from the elaborate detail and scale of the complex that this funerary monument was a technological marvel of its time.
자, 조세르의 계단 피라미드. 스네프루의 최초 피라미드. 이거는 뭐지?
Welcome
뭐지?
to Sneferu's first pyramid. With the long reign of Sneferu, the first king of the
이거는
fourth
사왕조
dynasty,
때랍니다.
the
사왕조.
most brilliant and creative period began for the construction of funerary monuments in Egypt.
요게 최초의 피라미드인가?
Funerary monument design moved from the step pyramid to the smooth-faced pyramid.
아니 그러니까 여성부 장관 안
Testament to the
자른다니까?
evolution of the practices of construction.
여성부 공무원들 안
The
자른다니까
first
지금.
attempt at this design was the pyramid of Meidum.
걔들도 돈 받아 하잖아. 아 그래요? 세 개, 네
While
개.
Sneferu's monument started as a 7-stepped pyramid,
욕심 많은
it was
사람이야.
later altered into an 8-stepped structure. The final phase of construction saw the steps filled out and an outer casing applied to achieve a smooth surface. The smooth dressing of the walls did not provide sufficient bonding, however, and the outer casing did not rest on sound foundations. As a result, the bases of the
요거는
4
나폴레옹이
outer
쓰던
buttress
거랍니다.
walls gave way, causing the walls to slide down and collapse. While the Meidum Pyramid was abandoned due to design flaws, it showcased other innovations that would impact all future pyramid designs.
공무원들이 원래
As
그래.
well as the smooth sides, it was the first time a ceremonial pavement was built, leading from the valley to the temple of the pyramid.
Another innovation was that of the funerary chamber, which was no longer at the bottom of a well, but rather above ground level. This
부실공장
change
그때도 있었구나.
signaled the beginning of the three-bedroom system.
자, 스네프르의 최초 피라미드. 이벤 다슈르의 굴절 피라미드랍니다. 이거 잘 만들었죠, 그죠?
Welcome to the Bent Pyramid of Dashur. After the construction of the Meidum Pyramid failed, Sneferu transferred his residence and the official necropolis to Dashur. There he began construction on his second attempt at a funerary monument.
이것도 아까 그
The
스네프르가 지은
resulting
거라네요.
structure, known as the Bent Pyramid, is the only one of its shape in
아, 저렇게
Egypt.
생겨서 저게 굴절 피라미드구나.
Though the pyramid also proved unstable and was abandoned, it marked a technical and architectural breakthrough. Heralding an important
그러니까
design
스네프루가 맨
transition,
처음에
the Bent Pyramid
피라미드를 만든
displays a
사람인데
shift
이
from a
사람이
step pyramid
이것저것
to a
시도해
functional
보면서
smooth-sided pyramid.
내가 세네 개 지었다는 게 이것저것 시도해 보면서 이거는 되고 저거는 안 되고 뭐 그렇게 한번 해봤다는 건가? 나중 사람들은 이제 그걸 보고 아 저렇게 지면 안 되겠구나. 난
The
이렇게 해야지
Bent
뭐
Pyramid
그렇겠다는
was
거예요.
unique in having two separate entrances, one on the northern face and another on the western face. The chamber of this pyramid was too small for a human burial. It was probably meant for the burial of a statue designated to house the Ka, the vital spirit of the deceased king.
조세르가 몇 왕조였지? 5왕조 아니었나? 조세르가 5왕조였을걸?
With the Bent Pyramid, architects successfully experimented with a completely new idea: to build the pyramid with a core of huge stones settled on a progressive horizontal design. This way, each construction phase could be completed in a single stage, allowing the architect
저는 역사를
complete
좋아하는
control
사람이지
over
역덕이
every
아닙니다.
design element.
그 저를
Unfortunately,
십덕
these
같은 그런
precautions
덕
did not
같은 말로
prevent
표현하지
sagging
마세요.
or cracks in the interior rooms of the pyramid. Sneferu
그
abandoned the
십덕들이 다
monument
물타기 하려고
and
만든
began the
말입니다.
construction of yet another pyramid.
자, 아무튼 다슈르의 굴절 피라미드 이것도 이제 스네프르의 작품이랍니다. 이벤 다슈르의 붉은 피라미드. 그래, 보스턴 카 사건. 그 아직도 이해를 못했구나.
Welcome to the Red Pyramid of Dashur. The Red Pyramid was built 2 kilometers to the north of the Bent Pyramid. It was so named due to the reddish limestone used in its construction. The Red
아, 그
Pyramid
사람
reached
덕분에
a height of
4,700년 동안 남아있는
105
건축물이 생긴
meters.
거잖아.
While the
박수 쳐줘야지,
ground
그
level
정도면.
of the Red Pyramid is lower than that of the Bent Pyramid, its height is virtually the same. The task of making the pyramid a geometrical, true flat-face pyramid brought about yet another new design concept: the use of casing blocks.
아무튼 요건 그럼 누가 만든 거죠?
Yep. Hey, whoa.
The descending corridor of the pyramid, which opens to the north, arrives at ground level,
요것도
where
스네프르예요.
2 almost identical spectacular chambers with high ceilings are aligned north to south and connected by a short horizontal passage. In the south wall of the second chamber, accessed by a staircase, another corridor leads to the final chamber, which is built within the masonry of the pyramid itself and aligned east to west.
Yep. Whoa!
The annexes of the Red Pyramid consist of a small funerary temple located to the east. A causeway presumably ran due east from the temple, but it has yet to be excavated.
조세르가요. 이집트 사망조네요. 예. 그 범수 씨 말이 맞아요. 그 사망조고 그게 최초고 이게 지금 스냅프로 이게 사왕조거든요. 그러니까 요게 다음에 건설된 게 맞아요. 찾아봤음.
The Red Pyramid was structurally sound, and once finished, marked a remarkable design milestone. Finally successful in his attempts to build himself a suitable funerary monument, Sneferu knew his future beyond death was assured.
공무원들을 홀대하면 공무원들이 사람들을 괴롭히기 시작하는 거야. 그래서 공무원들을 홀대하면 안 돼. 역사를 좀 배워, 역사를.
Welcome to Pyramids of the Middle Kingdom.
스네풀은 정말 의지의 남자인 것 같다. 존경할 수 있는 행복한이었던 것
During the
같아.
Middle Kingdom era, the powerful rulers of the 12th dynasty resumed the tradition of elaborate pyramidal tombs.
장교이자 이제
For example,
행복한이었던 것 같습니다.
Amenemhat I built a funerary complex in Lisht, and Senusret II selected the Elahun site in the Fayum.
자, 이거는 12왕조랍니다.
Amenemhat II and Sesostris III, however, cast their favor towards Dashur. Amenemhat III built a pyramid there as well before moving to Hawara in the Fayum. The plundering of tombs in troubled times prompted the architects of the Middle Kingdom to devise increasingly
중앙조 시대
complicated
때
means of security during construction.
이미 그 공황조에서
As
만들어
such,
놓은
while the
피라미드들이
architectural
도굴당
plans of the
시작했던 모양입니다.
Hawara
그래서
pyramid were simpler than the
중앙조
one at
시대의
Dashur,
피라미드들은
the
점점
means used to
복잡해졌다고 얘기가
protect
나오네요.
it from looters were much more elaborate. Beyond the use of blind passages and concealed trapdoors, the architects relied on a system of stone slabs, which
아니야,
were
그러니까
slid
가짜지.
into place at the end of construction. These massive stone slabs were meant to permanently block the passageways leading to the funerary chambers.
가짜 카이사르.
Yeah.
흑채.
Whoa.
The kings of the 13th dynasty began building their pyramids at Mazguna, south of Dashur, then moved on to Fayum and Abydos. The kings of the
사실
17th
로마2에 나오는
dynasty,
탈모
however,
카이사르는 좀
satisfied themselves with crowning
그랬어요.
their cave tombs with small pyramids of raw brick.
난 그렇게
The
진짜로
kings of the 18th dynasty
그 뭐야
gave up the shape of the pyramid as a
뭐라
royal
그럴까?
tomb entirely. They
원색적이고
chose a mountain with a
그
pyramidal
노골적으로
shape
대머리로
in the
표현할 줄은
Valley of
몰랐거든.
Kings and dug their graves there.
그래서 그 뭐야 갈리아 원정 캠페인 할 때 되게 좀 처음에 할 때 어색하고 놀랐었어요.
Whoa. Hey.
그 얼굴이 30대.
It was not until the
카이사라
Nubian
몇 살 때
pharaohs
죽었죠?
of the 25th dynasty that kings were once again buried under pyramidal tombs. In fact, today, the area of ancient Nubia,
요거는
modern Sudan, contains a record number of 220 known pyramids
야,
to
수단-
Egypt's 138. Despite their slow decline in use and quality, pyramids continued to fascinate all and sundry up to the Roman era.
수단 지역에
They remain
220개고요.
to this day a
이집트에
symbol of the religious
138개랍니다.
dedication of the pharaohs and the
이건 이제
grandeur
그때
of
수단
ancient Egypt.
지역까지 이집트가 영향력이 있었다는 거겠죠. 아니면 먹었거나. 누비아 지역입니다. 뒤로 갈수록 점점 그러니까 나라가 혼란하니까 이거를 크게 지을 수 없었던 모양이야. 제벤 기자 네크로폴리스입니다. 전 20대 아닌데 이제 30대인데. 난 그럼 위기를 넘겼네. 자, 기자 피라미드입니다.
Welcome to an overview of the Giza necropolis. The Giza Plateau is
왜, 방금
located on the
찾아봤어?
west bank of the Nile and was
20대
considered by
초부터
ancient
달모가 와요.
Egyptians as the domain of the dead. The pyramidal complexes found there were built over the span of 3 generations
저기
during the reign of Khufu, Khafre, and Menkaura.
저 뭐야 스핑크스 표정이 왜 이렇게 꼬롬합니까?
Yeah.
변태 같잖아.
The Giza area, now famous for its 3 pyramids, is part of a wider grouping of funerary complexes. Rulers from this period generally elected to be buried in the area. The focal point of the entire region was the
전때는
city of Memphis, chosen as the capital of
동물
Egypt
몸에
at the
사람을
beginning of
걸고
the
있는 게
Old
유행이었나
Kingdom.
봐. 그 내세에서 봤던 인면조도 그렇고. 스핑크스도
The
생각해 보면
placement of the
그렇잖아요.
Giza monuments, and particularly that of the pyramids, followed a practical yet strict alignment. First, they focused on cardinal points, and then they accounted for the natural geology of the plateau.
스냅프로. 재밌네요. 스핑크스의 수수께끼. 자, 변태한테 합시다. 변태. 아니, 곰녀를 곰이 여자로 변하는 그걸 이제 세세하게 막 조각으로 남겨놓거나 그러진 않았잖아요. 얘들은 이게 조각이 남아있으니까 신기해서
Welcome
그런 거죠.
to the riddles. A sphinx was originally meant to be a personification of the king. The human head, wearing pharaonic regalia, was fused with the body of a lion, thus sharing the qualities the powerful animal
스핑크스 지금
possessed,
가고 있음.
namely its power, the swiftness of its attack, and its majestic authority.
근데 표정은 왜 저기
By these
변태같을까?
very virtues, it was also considered a symbol of protection. Unsurprisingly, statues of sphinxes could be found along the dromus, protectors of the path taken by the gods to reach the temples. Over the centuries, enthusiasts and historians alike have wondered, who built the Sphinx? For what purpose? And who does it represent? These questions remain unanswered. Several theories do exist, however, some more credible than others. One theory supposes that Jetafre chose to pay homage to his father Khufu by building the Great Sphinx of Giza. The stone temple on the eastern face of the Sphinx would have been added later on by his brother and successor, Khafre, in order to strengthen the divine worship of their father. It would be the first Egyptian temple oriented with the sun.
생각해보니 스핑크스도 수염나 있네.
Another theory suggests that the Sphinx was built by Khafre and was meant to represent him. The arguments to support this hypothesis are based on the fact that the limestone beds used for the main work of the Temple of the Sphinx are geographically and
그래요?
architecturally
누군데?
similar to the Valley Temple of Khafre. Some believe that Khufu himself built the Sphinx, which was later finished under his successors,
박정희 같은 놈이야, 아니면 전두환
Jetafre
같은
and
놈이야?
Khafre. These
내
arguments
말은
are
그래도
based on the
그래도
stylistics
좀
of the
봐줄 만한
engraving,
놈이냐 아니면
the typology of the
족
names,
같은 놈이냐
and the
묻는 거야.
absence of a beard at the time of construction.
전두환 이 새끼는 안 죽나?
While ancient Egypt as a whole leaves a rather monochrome vision of its monuments and statuary, it is vital to understand that in ancient times, absolutely everything was painted. The sun, eating away at the pigments of the colors, the sand, the climate, and the implacable impact of time, unfortunately destroyed
옛날에 이렇게
the
황량한 색이
glorious
아니었다는
colors
거죠.
of the Sphinx of Giza.
전두환 알겠음.
Documents from an Arab Egyptologist of the 12th century, Abd al-Latif al-Baghdadi, indicate that traces of red were still visible in his time. Today, however, the only color that remains are traces of red close to the ears of the Sphinx, as well as hints of blue and yellow on the nemes, traditional colors for that type of headdress. The pigments for the color red were man-made, obtained by mixing different products such as clay, quartz sand, and very finely crushed hematite.
원래 색깔이 있다는 거죠.
Red had a strong symbolism in ancient Egypt. It was both the color of life and the color of death.
스핑크스 말이야?
It could represent the sands of the desert or the brilliance of the sun. Red was also associated with the god Seth, vengeful and destructive. The Egyptian word for red, deshur, is also the word which was used to signify the desert, or the royal crown of Lower Egypt. In art, red was also the color used to paint the bodies of men,
아,
while
석상이요?
yellow was used for women.
아, 그래요?
It is possible that there were also color restoration efforts during the Saite period about 600 years before Cleopatra's rule,
희한하구만.
as indicated by notes on the inventory stele, discovered in 1858 by Auguste Mariette. It is because of this that the team made the decision to display it with its full range of colors, even though the Sphinx's colors would have likely faded by Cleopatra's time. Dating from the 4th dynasty, approximately 2600 to 2500 BCE, the Great Sphinx of Giza is the oldest and largest sphinx that we know of. Carved from a natural limestone outcrop, the Sphinx measures 19.8 meters in height, 73.2 meters in length, and 14 meters in width. In order to bring polish to the imposing monument, several blocks of limestone were added after the initial construction phase. Since then, there have been numerous attempts at preservation. The polish present in the game integrates some aspects of modern restoration attempts. The team made this choice to present a more iconic version of the Sphinx of Giza to the player. Today, the Sphinx is called the Terrifying One. This appellation is translated from its Arabic name, Abu al-Hal, which in turn was derived from Baluba in Coptic.
심오하네.
The Sphinx as a whole was carved in situ from a natural stone promontory. Its head was built in a limestone peak of the Mukattam Plate, and the body was sculpted in the underlying rock layer where it is located.
지금 보면은
The
암석의 지층이
degradation
그대로
of
남아
the
있는 게
Sphinx
보이죠.
is due in particular to wind erosion and the different quality of limestone used in its construction. The level of sodium contained in the groundwater which abuts the stone is also a contributing factor. The natural bedrock is seen through the oblique natural strata of the Sphinx's body that are similar to the surrounding limestone.
이거 되게 많네.
Since antiquity, people have always believed there was a hidden tomb deep within the Sphinx. It is thought that attempts to plunder the Sphinx began as far back as the First Intermediate period. Since then, numerous attempts to pierce the Sphinx's secrets have been carried out, leaving indelible scars upon the monument.
뭐 카이사르잖아. 가짜 카이사르. 스핑크스를 도구로 하는 사람도 있었구나.
"12 meters long and cut during pharaonic times, another entrance in the back of the Sphinx
이거 엉덩이
aroused
쪽에는 구멍이 진짜
curiosity.
있는 구멍인가 보네.
Although Thutmose IV attempted to seal it off, it was possibly reopened by treasure hunters. It was rediscovered by Howard Vyse and mapped more recently by Mark Lehner. This entrance at the back of the Sphinx leads to different cavities of a few meters each, in directions going inside the statue's body and under the surface. The team has used this opportunity to extrapolate a little more.
난 이게 그냥 게임에서 그 뭐 하려고 만들어 놓은 건 줄 알았는데 진짜 있는 구멍인가 보다. 희한하네요.
While there have been no major discoveries pertaining to the Sphinx of Giza in recent years, theories and hypotheses continue to emerge. Without validation provided by archaeological sources, however, they remain unsubstantiated. The first of the main theories as to the Sphinx of Giza's meaning posits that the Sphinx was originally a massive representation of the god Anubis. Its principal arguments are that the head of the Sphinx is disproportionate compared to the size of its body.
사람 얼굴로 바뀌었다
The
그런 건가?
second theory believes that the representation of two sphinxes on the stela of Thutmose IV would indicate that another stone sphinx
그래요?
had existed on the site itself,
잘 됐네요. 방송 끝나기
possibly
전에
even
끝나겠네.
impaired symmetry on the other side of the Nile. However, neither of these theories can be verified in any way. Several scientific projects using new technologies have been put in place in the past decades. The most important was led by Mark Lehner and his team, who specialize in the study and survey of the Giza Plateau, including the Sphinx site. The mapping made it possible to see the materials used to construct the Sphinx, analyze the different layers of erosion, and figure out the most fragile areas to protect. After a few attempts at giving the Sphinx artistic proportions, the team instead decided to use photogrammetry mapping to faithfully reproduce the proportions of the Sphinx.
대구 지하철 11시쯤 되면 끝나지 않나?
What the Sphinx of Giza represented during its construction and how the Sphinx was perceived by the Egyptians of the New Kingdom are two
그러니까
very different
그쯤 되면
matters.
끝났지.
Originally a representation of the king imbued with the power of the lion, the Sphinx was eventually viewed as a direct representation of the most
12시
divine.
1시까지 다니는 서울이 비정상
It
아닐까요?
is theorized that kings of the New Kingdom believed that
그게
the Sphinx
비정상
of
아닐까?
Giza was the one who recognized and legitimized the ruler of Egypt. Thus, despite the fact the Sphinx of Giza
그러니까요.
was partially buried
집에 가서
under
좀
the sand
자라니까
during his
자고
reign,
쉬고 그래야지.
Amenhotep II knew that the monument was of great importance.
아무튼 저는 대구에 만족하기 때문에.
Amenhotep II built a second temple dedicated for the Sphinx as
부산이
Horamaka to
12시라고요?
pay homage to Khufu and Khafre,
부산이 일본에
his
가깝잖아.
predecessors. It became a common habit for this dynasty to spend time with the
한국적인
royal
게 싫나
courts
보지.
at the Sphinx. Its sanctuary became known as Setepet, the Chosen. Egyptologist Mark Lehner believed that Amenhotep II built a statue of himself anchored between the paws of the Sphinx, likely to legitimize his reign, alongside a stela found by Salim Hassan. Many other pharaohs of this dynasty, such as Tutankhamun and Ramses II, also left
지금
marks
보시는
of their
요거는
passage in
19왕조
a
때
similar fashion,
유물이랍니다. 19왕조.
sometimes even stripping the stones of nearby temples and pyramids to do so. Amenhotep II's son and successor, Thutmose IV, was a frequent offender.
대구 살기 좋습니다. 진짜로 살기 좋은 곳이에요.
While
내가
sleeping
안 타서
between the
그렇지.
Sphinx's paws, the future Thutmose IV saw in a dream the
지하철도
god
좋고 버스도
Horameket
좋고
proclaiming his coming accession on the
사람들도
throne of the
좋고
two
정치는 안
lands.
좋네.
This was, of course, on the condition that he remove all of the sand covering the Sphinx, which stood guard as the personification of the god,
이거
and
아까
should
그거야.
thus never be engulfed by the sands of the
똑같은 거야,
desert.
똑같은 거. 지금 봐요, 아까하고 똑같은 거라니까. 이 밑에 또 있네? 이 밑에 지금 아줌마가 또 있구나. 저 와이프인가?
The 15-ton dream stela built by Thutmose IV to commemorate his dream was discovered by an Italian Egyptologist, Giovanni Battista Caviglia, in 1818, when he undertook the task of freeing the Sphinx from the sand, which had yet again covered it. Caviglia was looking for an entrance into the structure of the Sphinx, but instead he discovered an open-air chapel and stelas between the paws. Ashes from a ceremony were still present. Protected by sand, they quite possibly were from the last ceremonies in Roman times. That same year, Caviglia discovered fragments of the Sphinx's beard that had
수염조각.
probably been added during the New Kingdom. If many of these pieces are held by museums in Cairo, a fragment is displayed at the British Museum, along with a piece of the uraeus that was on the Sphinx's
대영 제국
headdress.
박물관. 저 쓰레기들한테 왜
It
있음?
is believed this fragment of beard was possibly kept in place thanks to the statue of Amenhotep II, which was supposed to be located under the head of the Sphinx. A popular cultural legend purports that the nose of the Sphinx of Giza was lost during the time of Napoleon Bonaparte to the cannon fire of French soldiers in training.
프랑스 개새끼들.
However, engravings from before the time of that campaign
근데 프랑스
already
놈들 탓이
depicted the
아니라네요.
Sphinx without a nose, indicating that it had been
아
removed
식민지라서
before the
가져간 건
French
알고 있죠.
campaign.
한때 그랬으니까. 그냥 욕하고 싶었습니다.
The most plausible hypothesis is based on the research of the German historian Ulrich Harman. During the 1980s, Harman compiled medieval sources written by Arab authors. In doing so, he discovered that the Sphinx was once perceived as a favorable omen, a deity supporting sediment-nurturing floods and crops. Around 1378, a Sufi by the name of Muhammad Sa'im al-Dar could not stand this
우상
vision of
숭배
the monument,
반대해서 우상을
and in an
파괴한다고
iconoclastic act
스핑크스
broke the
코를
nose of the
조졌는데
Sphinx.
그것 때문에
According to the texts, he was then hanged and burned
화형당했답니다.
between the legs of the Sphinx for his crime.
이슬람 새끼들도 저게 얼마나 중요한 건지 알고 있었다는 거죠. 10세기들 그땐 존중할 줄 알았으면서 왜 지금은 그따위냐. 자, 이번엔 쿠푸입니다. 쿠푸. 아무튼 그냥 욕하고 싶었습니다. 자, 쿠푸.
Welcome to Khufu's funerary complex.
The Valley Temple was the first architectural component encountered when one entered the funerary complex. It was considered the official entrance of the tomb and mixed the structural components of both a temple and a
그치.
portico.
그러니까 12세기
Khufu's Valley
13,
Temple shows
12,
evidence
13,
of the basalt
14세기 이슬람
pavement, letting us know where
놈들은
the
저게
portico
개쩌는 거란 걸
portion
알고
of the
있는데 왜
structure was
지금
located.
21세기 새끼들은 모르냔 말이야.
Such a partition is believed to symbolize both the subterranean and solar aspects of the afterlife.
아, 그건 당연하죠. 그 파가 많고 그 다음에 사람들이 다 다양한 건 알죠. 당연하죠. 근데 씨부라.
Khufu's
같은 것들.
causeway ran from the floodplain up to the plateau, linking together the Valley Temple and the Mortuary Temple. A traditional causeway presented itself as a paved path,
야, 신전에 그 석상
enclosed by
폭파시키는
walls
걸
and often roofed.
보면 그 족 같은 것들.
Yeah.
어떻게 그런 짓을 할까?
Fragments discovered by archaeologists indicate that the walls in Khufu's causeway, one of the longest known to us, were decorated with carvings and possibly paint.
이슬람이 좀 더
Depictions
문명이
show a great
제가
variety
알고
of
있습니다.
themes. Stars on the ceiling, accompanied by scenes of battles on the walls. Other engravings depicted the creation of the complex by illustrating craftsmen at work.
Yep. Oh.
The most impressive private cemeteries of Giza are located east and west of Khufu's pyramid. The eastern cemetery was reserved for members of the royal family, while the western cemetery was mostly set aside for various court dignitaries. In both areas, private tombs, also known as mastabas, were aligned and laid out methodically in streets and avenues. This arrangement was probably an attempt at recreating the king's court for the afterlife.
그러니까 피라미드라는 건 일종의 공동묘지군요.
Yep. Hey, whoa.
To the east of Khufu's pyramid reside three smaller constructions,
게르만
the
새끼들,
three
게르만
Queen's
대가리.
pyramids. A sloping passage led from the ground surface to a burial chamber, cut out of the bedrock and lined with masonry. If it seems quite certain that these monuments were intended for queen's burials, the identity of the original occupants is hard to assess.
요 앞에 요 세 개를 얘기하는 건가요?
Yeah. Oh.
The northernmost pyramid was most likely meant for Queen Hetepheres, who is believed to have been Khufu's mother. However, in 1925, her actual tomb was discovered nearby by accident.
야,
It was
고왕국
hidden at the
사왕조랍니다.
bottom of a
사왕조.
deep masonry pit in an underground chamber. Within the concealed chamber, Egyptologists discovered the most complete royal funerary equipment, dating from the Old Kingdom, though her body was missing.
그 앵글족하고 섹슨족 새끼들 대가리를 내가 어떻게 합니까?
Yep.
사람이 아닌 것들을 사람한테 생각하게 하지 마십시오. 사람이 아닌 것들은 이해할 수가 없습니다.
Whoa.
Within the vicinity of Khufu's pyramid,
이건 태양의 배네요.
Egyptologists have uncovered 7 boat pits.
아, 태양의 시대에서 저거
The
발견할 때
exact
생각이 납니다.
function of such boat-shaped pits remains unconfirmed, though one can easily conjecture that it was symbolic in nature. The boat pits being located at the eastern side of the pyramid, at the precise spot where the resuscitated king was supposed to reappear, could constitute evidence to support such an assumption.
태양의 배 이게 태양의 시대 온라인에서 종교학 태양의 부적이라는 걸
The two
얻게
southern boat
하는 그런
pits, each
그러니까
covered by
얻을
a
수 있는 그
roof of
퀘스트
huge
중에
limestone
발견하는 건데
slabs, were discovered in
그래서 아무것도
1954
모르는
by
사람들도
Kamal
태양의
al-Malak,
배는 뭔지
an
알죠.
Egyptian Egyptologist.
게임의 긍정적인
Only
면이죠.
one of them had been opened. 1,224 boat parts
그렇죠.
made
어떻게
of cedar wood were retrieved one by one and patiently reassembled by the master restorer Ahmed Youssef. This process took 28
조선의
years.
문명인들은 할아버지
Youssef
수염 가지고
worked
장난치는
by
것도 뭐라
following
그랬는데
lines of mortise and tenon joints
스핑크스 수염
and
가지고
by stitching
장난치다니.
parts together with vegetable ropes, all in order to keep the design as authentic as possible.
예의도 모르는 것들.
Yep.
아니요, 이해 못합니다.
Oh.
The Greek term pyramidion refers to the capstone of a pyramid or the tip of an obelisk. In ancient Egyptian, both components were called benben.
저거네.
This word was also used for a specific kind of food, a cone-shaped offering made of bread. The pyramidion was intended to be a miniature reproduction of the pyramid, making it equal to the monument itself in symbolic
좀
importance.
맨 위에 올리는 돌 얘기하는가 보죠. 지금 보면은 지금 야 이런 것도 가능하다. 지금 보면은 피라미드 가장 위쪽에 색깔이 다른 부분이 있는데 저게 이제 피라미드의 축소판이라는 거지. 저거 얘기하는 거겠죠. 새도 처박아라. 처박진 않네.
Whoa.
A few pyramidia have been retrieved from pyramidal complexes. The earliest, found in Dashur, is undoubtedly a good example of Old Kingdom's pyramidia. It is made of limestone and has no inscriptions. Some engraved pyramidia were recovered from private funerary chapels. Their inscriptions all related to the solar symbolism of the benben.
Yeah.
The pyramidia of the pyramids of Giza were never recovered. The reconstitution you see in the game is fictive, incorporating a golden pyramidion bearing inscriptions relevant to Khufu.
이거 지금 남아 있지 않고 다 복원한 거란 말이죠. 추측해서 복원한 거란 말이지.
Yep.
자, 쿠프의 무덤 남지. 이번 대피라미드의 비밀입니다. 세상 이 교육 방송을 5명이 보고 있다고요?
Welcome to Secrets. Built around 2550 BCE, the Great Pyramid of Giza is considered one of the most iconic structures of Egypt. It
요게
is the
쿠프
biggest of the
피라미드입니다.
pyramids
요게
and the only
사왕조입니다.
one of the
사왕조.
7 wonders of the ancient world still standing. The numbers associated to the Great Pyramid of Giza are impressive. A workforce of over 20,000 people, 6 million tons of stone,
재밌죠?
and
이거
20
볼만하지?
years of construction. It was a massive undertaking for a pharaoh's tomb.
Yep.
투어.
The construction of the Great Pyramid was also a display of power and opulence on the part of Khufu. It is part of the pharaoh's vast funerary complex, which also includes 2 temples, 3 satellite pyramids, a causeway, and a builder's necropolis. We can guess that
건설자들의
the intent
네크로폴리스는
behind the
아마
construction of these
지은
monuments
사람들의
was
순장이
Khufu's
있다는 게
way of
아니라
declaring himself one of the most powerful
공동묘지
pharaohs
단지를
to
만들어
rule
놓고
a unified
나중에
Egypt.
그러니까 어쨌건 이게 피라미드 짓는 게 되게 이제 위대한 국책 사업이니까
Yeah.
공동묘지 단지를 만들어 놓고 거기다가 이제
New
같이
insights
묻힐
into
영광을 주겠다,
engineering
뭐
and
그런
ancient
의미겠죠.
Egyptian culture are still being revealed over 4,500 years
설마
later.
2만 명을 순장했겠어?
For example, a recently unearthed papyrus offers a glimpse into the life of a tradesman at the time of the pyramid's construction. Also, a logbook belonging to a team leader during the building gives details on the craftsmen, their work schedules, and the raw materials required.
Yep. Oh.
산재당한
It is
사람.
interesting to note that by Cleopatra's time, the pyramid's celestial purpose, its construction, and the function of its mysterious inner chambers was already unclear.
그때도
Today,
구전이 안
it
됐던
is
모양이죠.
only through dedicated research that we have begun to grasp some of the Great Pyramid's mysteries.
자, 지금부터 클레오파트라까지 2000년, 클레오파트라부터 요 피라미드까지 한 2700년 정도.
The Egyptians had polished their design for centuries by the time work on the Great Pyramid began. Intended as a tomb for Khufu, the Great Pyramid's structural design has been considered to be nearly perfect by engineers and historians ever since.
Yeah.
Precisely oriented north-south to the 4 cardinal points of a compass, the length of each side of the Great Pyramid at its base was 230 meters, and its original height was 147 meters. The pyramid is a mere 0.05% error away from being a perfect square.
0.05%.
Yep. Whoa.
In order to achieve the shape of a true pyramid, the design required many considerations in the planning phases as well as precision during execution. It was especially critical that they control the angle of inclination on all sides at every stage of construction.
야, 나한테 이런 거라 그러면 못할 거야 아마.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah. Hup.
Materials for the Great Pyramid consisted of quarried limestone blocks, weighing between 2 to 15 tons each. The methods of moving these blocks into place is still debated by architects and Egyptologists. The precision of its design in an age with only soft metal tools, as well as the enormous scale of its construction, make the Great Pyramid one of the most impressive feats of human engineering.
Yep.
여기 기원 아닙니다.
It's estimated that it took between 600,000 and 2 million blocks of stone to build the Great Pyramid. Experts calculate it would have required men to move 12 blocks every hour around the clock for for 20 years to place the 2.3 million stones the monument is made of.
시간당 12개의 벽돌을 20년간 옮겨야 된다고요? 밤낮으로? 수십 년 동안 계속 지었다는 거네요. 스네프루 새끼.
Whoa, whoa.
의지의 남자 아닐까? 존중해주자, 존중해줘.
While the interior chambers were built with red granite from Aswan, most of the pyramid was made from local limestone, weighing between 2 to 15 tons per block. There is debate on how the pyramid stones were moved into place. Recent research is exploring the idea that it was built around a large interior ramp. The recently discovered logbook confirms that the high-quality limestone of the outer casing was brought by boat across the Nile from a quarry in Tura.
작업 일지로 알았다네요.
Once
작업 일지.
complete, the smooth white polished stone of the Great Pyramid would have reflected the sunlight like a beacon, earning it the name the Horizon of Khufu. Over the centuries, thieves and travelers attempted to access the Great Pyramid numerous times. Ancient writings describe details of its interior, proof that some made their way within, though who gained entrance first and when is unknown.
도굴꾼들은 2000년 전에도 있었습니다.
The main entrance of the Great Pyramid is located 17 meters above ground level. It faces north, likely in order to align with the North Star. Though the entrance passageway had been discovered in antiquity, any further access into the Great Pyramid was stopped by massive vertical slabs of rock. As such, present-day visitors to the pyramid must use the robber's entrance.
현재는 도굴꾼이요?
The robber's entrance is reported to have been opened in the 9th century by Caliph al-Mamun. In search of treasure, the Caliph had his men dig their way inside the Great Pyramid.
그럴 수도 있죠. 하청
The
주고.
most
그럴
likely
수 있지.
scenario is that they enlarged a corridor which had been created by tomb robbers during antiquity. As such, this is how the team can justify access to this wonder.
도굴꾼들이 정말 대단한 놈들이구나.
Attempts to gain entry to the Great Pyramid and uncover its potential secrets continued throughout the centuries. In the 19th century, the belief that another entry existed at the south side resulted in a hole being
미친 새끼들.
blasted into the pyramid's side, with no results for the damage that was done.
폭약으로 뚫었답니다.
While the search is still ongoing today to uncover more hidden rooms and passageways, conservation is the primary concern of all such efforts.
아니 씨 아무리 입구가 있다고 그래도 어떻게 그걸 폭약으로 터트려 생각을 하냐? 자, 이번엔 대피라미드 지하의 방입니다.
Welcome to the Great... From the original entrance of the Great Pyramid, there is a passage leading to the subterranean chamber. Its walls were carved out of the existing rock of the plateau and then covered in a fine, unmarked limestone. The descending passage has a steep 26-degree downward slope. Narrow and with a low ceiling, this pathway is long and challenging. While the original passage was 145 meters long, the team reduced its length and made it both wider and higher. The main focus of the work in reproducing the location was centered upon preserving the unique claustrophobic environment of the Great Pyramid, while still allowing for a smooth game navigation.
그러니까 게임에 표현되어 있는 통로는 훨씬 더 원래 거보다 넓다는 거죠.
The well shaft was a 58-meter vertical passage
더
that connected
쾌적하고.
the descending corridor to the grand gallery above. An adjacent grotto may have originally been a small natural well in the bedrock that was enlarged during the tunneling. Whether the grotto was intended for another purpose is uncertain. There is much speculation over the purpose of the well shaft. One theory is that the channel was cut or enlarged to supply air to workers in the descending passage. Another is that it was meant to provide an exit route once the work was done in the heart of the pyramid. Without the well shaft, workers would have been trapped inside forever when the grand gallery was sealed. The opening at the bottom of the well shaft was most likely sealed by exiting workers to camouflage the passageway.
아무튼 그 옛날부터 되게 신기했나봐요. 옛날에도 신기했나봐요. 많이 들어오고 많이 깽판도 치고 터트리고 그랬던 모양이네.
There is a subterranean chamber at the end of the descending corridor, 30 meters below the Giza
여기가
Plateau
저방인가 보다.
surface. Dug directly into the bedrock, the space is wide with a ceiling 3 meters in height. Its floors and walls are rough and uneven, indicating that it was never completed. At the south end of the room, there is another narrow corridor, similar to the others, though it abruptly ends after roughly 20 meters. The chamber also contains an 11-meter pit near the east side. It's unclear what this may have been used for. In the game, this well leads to a fictive underground complex containing key game-related mysteries. The subterranean chamber's original purpose remains a mystery. One popular theory is that it was originally meant to be Khufu's burial chamber, but the pharaoh changed his mind, preferring to be buried higher up in the pyramid, which would explain the chamber's unfinished state.
그치, 지금이나 옛날에 똑같지. 그러니까 족같은 조선 순독부 동굴을 날려버렸잖아. 왜냐면 그건 그때나 지금이나 둘 다 족같았거든. 자, 이번 기자 피라미드 상층부 방입니다. 대피라미드의 상층부 방. 좋은 건축물은 지금까지 남아있는 거고 족같은 건축물은 날려버리는 거죠. 총독부 같은 거 있잖아.
Welcome to the Great Pyramid of Giza.
자,
At
여기
the entrance
쪽방입니다.
of the ascending passage are 3 granite flagstones estimated to weigh up to 25 tons each. They were used to protect the Great Pyramid from thieves. Undaunted by the granite blocks, the thieves simply dug into the softer limestone around them, thus creating the robber's entrance.
대단한 새끼들.
While in reality the robber's entrance is one single cavity which leads to both passages, in the game, the team created individual accesses to either passage. As such, in the game, one entrance leads to the ascending passage, while another leads to the descending passage. The ascending passageway of the Great Pyramid provides a direct path into the Grand Gallery
저
and is
부분이네요.
accessed 30 meters from the entrance along the descending corridor. Both corridors have similar dimensions and are designed with the same 26-degree incline. The ascending corridor has smooth masonry
그랬겠지.
on its walls, and the layout includes many trapezoidal stones. Both the floor and ceiling of the passageway indicate that the passage was enlarged, possibly during or after the funeral, to allow workers room to move granite blocks meant to plug the corridor. The Grand Gallery's purpose is still debated among experts. It may have been intended to align with the stars, act as a buffer to protect the king's chamber, or simply to facilitate the transport of the granite blocks used inside the pyramid. Access to the queen's chamber was at the beginning of the Grand Gallery. Though this room is referred to as the Queen's Chamber, it is believed that there was no queen buried here. Based on their knowledge of earlier pyramids, Egyptologists
그럼 왜
believe it
여왕의
was more
방일까요?
likely intended as the king's serdab, a chamber meant to contain the Ka statue, which would in turn house the king's spirit. Situated exactly within the pyramid's center, on the east-west axis of the pyramid, the chamber has a vaulted ceiling and measures 5.7 by 5.2 meters. In the eastern wall, there is a niche tucked away in a small corbelled archway, which may have originally held the Ka statue. Behind this niche is another smaller hole, possibly dug out by thieves in search of further treasure. In the 19th century, two shafts were found running through the north and south walls.
뭘요? 아, 여왕의
They
방이라고?
each run in a horizontal line for 2 meters before sloping upward, and both are closed off
그럴
with
수도 있죠.
limestone blocks fitted with copper handles. Whether they were intended as ventilation shafts for workers or a celestial connection for the pharaoh's spirit is unconfirmed. A recent scan of the room indicated the presence of an unknown cavity hidden behind the north face of the walls over the descending corridor. Further investigation is still ongoing to ascertain the nature of the anomaly, so as to avoid risking damage to the monument.
저 너머에 뭔가 있다네요. 근데 뭔진 잘 모른답니다. 일단 두고 본다네요.
Khufu's architects were possibly influenced by earlier rhomboidal pyramids when designing the gallery. It is the longest corbelled vault ever built, measuring 47 meters long and 8.6 meters high. The walls were made to
아니요, 다
taper
듣고 왔어요.
inward, allowing for better distribution of weight. As a result, the ceiling measures
이게
just
꼭
over a meter wide at
순서대로
its
듣게
highest
돼
point.
있어요.
Though
빼먹으면
this
다음 게 안 나와.
construction technique is present in other pyramids, few have the same precision and stability. While the space is visually dramatic, the gallery seemed to serve a practical function, though what exactly remains uncertain. Still, the wall design was undoubtedly meant to contribute to the stability of the structure, and its floor may have helped workers move the materials. A channel runs along the middle of the room. A movable floor originally rested in this central recess. The raised benches on either side are equipped with slots that may have been used to help position the granite blocking stones. At the end of the Grand Gallery is the entrance to the antechamber leading to the King's Chamber. Directly above, there is another narrower horizontal passage that connects to the top of the King's Chamber and allowed the workers access to the weight relief rooms. The far end of the Grand Gallery leads to a small antechamber with a portcullis, preventing access to the King's Chamber. The portcullis was composed of 3 separate granite slabs. They were designed to be lowered into place and seal the chamber after the burial of the king. The grooves dug out to hold the slabs in place are still clearly visible to this day. The elaborate locking system was composed of a series of
쩔지 않나?
grooves
이렇게
for the
만들어야
ropes and pulleys
뭔가를 만들려고
that
이렇게
brought the
만들어야 돼.
stones into place like the notches on a key. For the purposes of the game, the team elected to remove the portcullis slabs in order to grant the player access to the King's Chamber. In reality, workers would have backed out of the room after the funeral, lowering each slab.
아이고.
The king's chamber is built
아까 그
entirely out
통로가
of red
사실은 막혀
granite.
있는 통로란 말이죠.
The king's chamber measures 5.8 meters in height. It has an imposing cover of 5 stacked levels above, with granite beams weighing 25 to 40 tons each.
The uppermost level is surmounted by a vault of stones, arranged in chevrons to bear the enormous structural load. As in the Queen's Chamber, 2 shafts extend out from the room towards the north and south faces of the pyramid. They measure nearly 64 meters until they
그것도
are
아마
blocked
공기구멍
by
같은 거겠죠?
copper-handled granite plugs. Some experts in the culture of the Old Kingdom believe that the shafts were thought to lead the king's soul to the stars, with the incarnation of the pharaoh as the god Ra, represented by the northern well, and the god Horus by the southern well. There is a granite sarcophagus at the west end of the room, but it is the concealed construction inscriptions left by workmen on the roof's stones which verify this as the resting place of Khufu. The sarcophagus was recorded as being empty when it was discovered, and its design indicates that there was once a lid in place. It's possible that this sarcophagus is only a cenotaph in memory of the pharaoh, but was never actually meant to receive the body. Khufu's mummy was never found. It is hoped that as of yet undiscovered hidden rooms and shafts of the pyramid may provide an answer as to its location.
자, 여기까지가 가짜 기자의 대피라미드 상층부 방입니다. 자, 이것도 피라미드입니다.
Welcome to Jean-Pierre Houdin's theories.
그저 공기 구멍이겠죠. 뭐 상징적인 의미도 있었겠지.
The team wanted to provide players with a sense of exploration and discovery, particularly within the Great Pyramid. As such, a decision was made that the internal design of the monument in the game
이 아저씨가 장
would
피에르
reflect
우댕이래요.
Jean-Pierre Houdin's theories.
아마 원피스에 나온
While the
우댕보다는 멋진
antechambers
사람이겠죠.
of the king's tomb have yet to
안녕하세요.
be discovered, Houdin posits that this is merely due to a unique design, placing the pharaoh's tomb at the center of the pyramid. The entire tour you are about to take was designed along Houdin's hypotheses.
네, 그 게임 켜면 목록에 있습니다.
While respecting
골드
Houdin's
에디션이에요.
hypothesis as to the general layout of the antechambers, the team wanted the contents to enhance the game experience. In regular royal tombs, the antechambers were filled with all the material goods needed by the pharaoh in the afterlife.
스팸도 있나?
To support the feelings of discovery and awe, the art team created a unique and fantastical treasure in this second antechamber. Houdin theorized that the ascending corridor and the Great Gallery were used by the workers to haul hoist the heavy beams above the king's chamber. He called it the service circuit. The corridor you are in now was created by the team following Houdin's theory and is referred to as the noble circuit.
네, 오리진 다 끝났어요.
It is through this corridor
이제
that the
디스커버리
wooden
투어가 마지막이에요.
sarcophagus containing the pharaoh's mummy would have been transported to its final resting chamber. With this structure in mind, one can easily assume that the pyramid's entrance would have been connected to the two antechambers. Modern research has revealed that a cavity might be located behind the north face chevrons of the pyramid. As such, the team chose to create this area for the player to explore. Here is where Houdin believes that the priests and nobles would have exited the pyramid after the burial ceremony.
자, 자, 횃불을 켜죠. 잘 안 보이죠? 고맙습니다. 잉여인간의 플레이는 쉬지 않는다.
Many theories regarding the construction of the Great Pyramid rely on the usage of external ramps. However, Houdin believes an external ramp would have been too steep for the upper portion of the pyramid. This is why he posits that there were two ramps. An external ramp for about half of the height of the pyramid, which then became an internal ramp for the second half. Houdin's theory states that this internal ramp followed the sides of the pyramid in an ascending spiral pattern. A notch discovered in the edge of the Great Pyramid, known as Bob's Room, seems to support this theory. Located at the corners of each edge of the pyramid, these large rooms would have allowed workers to turn the stone by 90 degrees, allowing them to continue the ascent. The team chose to create rooms such as this one, bringing Houdin's hypothesis to life. This long corridor was the first section of the ascending internal ramp. Through it, the blocks used to build the Great Pyramid would have been carefully moved upward and then turned at each edge of the pyramid in order to continue their ascent. Though the team only created the main ramp for the game, Houdin posits that this ramp had two levels, allowing workers to return safely to the bottom thanks to an additional corbelled upper section.
아니요, 기분 탓 아니에요. 얘들 원래 그런 놈들임. 근데 이번엔 게임도 잘 만들었어.
According to Houdin,
끝났어요.
the start of the inner ramp
축하드립니다.
was located at the base of the southeastern face of the pyramid. This location would have been the junction point of the external and internal ramps. Below us, workers would
빨리
have
막차
built
타고
the
가세요,
lower
집에.
part of the pyramid with the external ramp before eventually switching to the internal ramp for the middle and upper sections of the pyramid.
네, 빨리 막차
At
타고
that
가십시오.
time in the process, they could have reused the material of the external ramp to fill the center of the pyramid, hauling the stones in through the internal ramp.
자, 장 피에르 우댕의 이론이랍니다. 네, 고맙습니다. 제벤 카프레 무덤 단지. 카프레가 어디죠? 아, 기자 지역이구나, 메나.
Welcome to Khafre's funerary complex.
전 뭐지, 도굴꾼인가?
Since the very beginning of the 4th dynasty, mortuary temples were built adjacent to pyramids on the eastern side. Such a location, facing the rising sun, as well as the world of the living as a whole, held an important symbolic meaning, for it was within the mortuary temple that kings were revived through daily rituals. In its standard form, a mortuary temple was divided into two parts. A front area which consisted of a vestibule and a courtyard, and an area in the back, where all sacred elements were located.
도굴꾼 못
The
죽임.
back of the
이
temple
무대에서는 아무도 못
incorporated
죽여요.
several essential
싸움
features,
자체가 안 돼.
including an inner sanctuary with a false door, which allowed the soul of the pharaoh to travel between the world of the dead and the world of the living.
범수신 죽은 다음에 어떻게 됐으면 좋겠어요?
The largest of all such structures, Khafre's mortuary temple was entirely built with megalithic blocks of limestone from a nearby quarry and encased with granite. Parts of Khafre's mortuary temple, particularly the courtyard walls, are thought to have been decorated with splendid reliefs. However, not a single image of the king has been discovered inside the mortuary temple.
아니 죽은 다음에 어떻게 될 거 같냐고. 장례식을 어떻게 했으면 좋겠냐가 아니라.
Khufu's direct successor, Jedefre, followed the custom which required each king to establish a new site for their funerary accommodation, and chose Abu Rawash as his last resting place. When the time came to build his own funerary complex,
카프레는 쿠프의 다른
Khafre,
아들이구나.
also one of Khufu's sons and the successor to Jedefre, broke with tradition and returned to Giza. Not only did Khafre thumb his nose
카프레
at
저기 호로
tradition,
자식이네.
but he did so in a way which he hoped would allow him to overshadow his father's most important monument.
그럼 어떻게 됐으면 좋겠는데. 뭐 희망사항은 있을 거 아니야.
Though Khafre's pyramid is smaller than Khufu's, it was cunningly built on a more elevated bedrock layer than the Great Pyramid, making it appear higher than any other pyramid at Giza.
호로 새끼네 이거.
Today, Khafre's pyramid is the only one among the three at Giza that still has the upper part of its limestone casing.
그랬나봐.
Considered a most sacred area, the Giza necropolis was strictly defined, both geographically and physically. An 8-meter thick Tura limestone wall completely surrounded the Great Pyramid. The only way inside would have been through the mortuary temple.
Yeah. Oh!
From the reign of Sneferu and onwards, the subsidiary pyramid became a common feature within the pyramidal complex. The function of the subsidiary pyramid, however, smaller in size and in height than the royal tomb, remains unclear, though some believe that it was meant to house the ka of the pharaoh.
Yep. Whoa, whoa.
In mainstream media, the ka is often defined as the soul of the deceased. The truth is a bit more complicated. Within the ancient Egyptian funerary belief system, the ka was a component of a living person,
이걸 보는 게
which
낫겠네요.
separated itself from the body
저때
at the time
눈화장이
of
좀
death.
진했네.
It represented the deceased's vital essence. In order for the deceased to ascend to a new life, whether in this world or the next, the ka had to be embodied in a statue, and its existence maintained through offerings and rituals.
Yeah.
Within Khafre's
상상만
subsidiary
해봤다고?
pyramid, a wooden
그래요.
box containing pieces of cedar was discovered by archaeologists. When reassembled, it turned out to be a shrine mounted on a sled. Just as with the solar barges found around Khufu's pyramid, it seems Khafre's shrine and sled were ritually disposed of after his funeral.
자, 카프레의 무덤 단지였습니다. 자, 이번 피라미드 마지막입니다. 맨카우레의 무덤 단지.
Welcome to Menkara's funerary complex. The dimensions of Menkara's pyramid are much less grandiose. However, unlike its predecessors, Menkaura's pyramid shows a great deal of complexity in its internal and external finish. The outside was partially covered in red granite, while the internal walls were richly decorated. This latter innovation would not catch on until the end of the 5th dynasty, when pyramid texts began to adorn the walls.
전부 어디감?
Menkaura's pyramid contains 2 sloping passages, both located in the northern side of the structure. The upper one was abandoned during the construction phase, whereas the lower one, slightly above the base of the monument, constitutes the real entrance. The lower passage leads to a first room, which, for the first time since the reign of Djoser, is decorated with engraved false doors. While Menkaura's pyramid complex was unfinished at the time of his death, it was
서둘러
hastily
엉성하게.
and somewhat shabbily completed by his successor, Shepsekov. Even so, this funerary structure marks a watershed in the history of this kind of monument.
네,
From
그건
then
맘대로 안 될걸?
onwards, the pyramid shrank, whereas the mortuary temple expanded both in its quantitative and qualitative aspects. Of particular note, it is within Menkaura's mortuary temple that one can find the heaviest block of limestone ever used for a pyramid complex, weighing in at over 200 tons.
Hey! Oh!
Menkaura's causeway was completed in mud brick by the king's successor, whereas the lower part was nothing more than a simple ramp. As for the Valley Temple, it was built in 2 phases. The foundations were first laid out in limestone during Menkaura's reign, but the temple itself was completed in mud brick afterwards. As such, the Valley Temple was soon damaged and ended up being completely rebuilt during the 6th dynasty. Three small structures, referred to as Menkaura's Queen's Pyramids, were erected along the southern side of the main pyramid. One of them was a smooth-faced pyramid, while the other 2 were more basic step pyramids.
저 앞에 보이는 세
It is
개겠죠?
difficult to
작은 거.
assess whether the latter were designed as such or were left unfinished with no casing to smooth out their surfaces. The easternmost pyramid was built with the traditional rooms and corridors found within a satellite pyramid meant to house the king's ka. However,
이걸 보고 있는 게
a
낫겠다.
granite sarcophagus was found within, leading to the conclusion that it was used as an actual tomb rather than as a symbolic cenotaph. Drawing on these observations, some assume that this pyramid was first built as a satellite pyramid for the king's ka, before seeing its purpose change to that of a queen's tomb. Which queen, however, remains a mystery.
자, 멘카레의 무덤 단지였습니다. 여기까지가 피라미드 16개. 재밌네요. 자, 영상 끊죠. 피라미드 하나 보는데 1시간 43분 걸렸다.